Right, hi guys. Okay, so I've decided to do another vlog because, like I say, I'm just feeling a little bit more upbeat than I have been for a little while, and just really enjoying making videos at the moment. And even though it's just a talky video, mind you, what else is there? I guess. I mean, talky videos. Could be showing you something, doing something, maybe. And yeah, definitely want to do other kinds of videos other than just these. But like I said, I just like really enjoying doing this at the moment, and actually, to some degree, actually finding it quite therapeutic. Because, like I say, I mean, you know, it kind of gets a bit. You know, no one to talk to, sort of thing, like I said. And you know, the thing is, it's funny because, like, in the other video, because when I watched it back, when I watched the latest video that I've just put up, there was a bit when I was talking about isolation, and I kind of got again, I sidetracked myself onto something else and didn't quite finish what I was trying to say in the first place. And that was in terms of around isolation, like I was saying, what I was originally trying to say. Because I was thinking in terms of isolation, in terms of being homeless, and that, in lots of ways, has got to be the ultimate in terms of isolation. I guess there are other forms of extreme isolation, like if you're locked up in I forgot what you call it now. Oh, for crying out loud. Well, in this country we call it segregation. You know what I mean? If you're in a segregation unit in a prison, say, in America they've got another term for it. I can't off the top of my head remember. But you know, if you're physically isolated from other human beings as well, as opposed to sort of socially isolated in that sense, how we say. But like I say, for you know, apart from those most extreme sort of versions of isolation in that sense, you know, in terms of society and in terms of societal isolation, if you like, in terms of homelessness, you know, for some homeless people in particular, not, I mean, because again, you know, if you frequent a lot of the homeless services, if you actually befriend other homeless people, you may even knock about with other homeless people for company or whatever, as some people do. You know, we're social creatures and we crave the company of other human beings. So it's only quite natural. But for some of us, you know, especially if we've been isolated throughout most of our life one way or another anyway, it's something that you kind of get used to. But when I say that with a caveat that the thing is that you might kind of get used to it on some levels, but again, it's human nature. Human beings, we're built, we're constructed, we're made, whatever way you want to put it. You know, we're designed, we function mostly with the purpose of, you know, and we tend to thrive far more with our other fellow human beings than we do, far more than we do on our own. This has been going on all night, by the way. I don't know what's going on down the road there. I know they've got to have the sirens, but I just find it really annoying, especially when I'm in the middle of trying to... That's about the 5th emergency vehicle that's gone down there. Most of them with police. That's a fire engine that's just gone past now. And like I say, I understand and appreciate the fact that, you know, they have to have a siren because obviously they've got to get through traffic and all the rest of it, but it just becomes extremely annoying when you're trying to have a conversation with a camera. Because I don't know until I play this back now just how loud that came across. Whether you could even, it might even drown me out for all I know. Well, then again, is it that easy to drown out a northerner? You know, I've got a very loud voice when I want to have. Anyway, yeah, sorry, completely distracted myself as well. So getting back to what I was saying about in terms of the distraction. Distraction. Sorry, what am I talking about? Sorry, I mean isolation. No, because like I said, in the other video that I put up, I was talking about. Oh, I started off talking about isolation and talking about how I've been feeling, and part of the reason why I like doing the videos, and it's nice to get that feedback from people as well. Really, really nice that is. Because it makes it, to be quite honest, I mean, see, that's, see, a lot, my head was almost going to take me off in a completely different tangent again then. Tried to stay to the point, Paul. So, anyway, the thing is that, like I say, being sat in here, day in, day out, with no work, no real human interaction as such, you start getting a bit stir crazy, you really do. But it's not just that, it's like the social isolation, it's the sense of like, human being. I guess I am a social creature by nature anyway, not just the fact that I'm a human being, and then most, generally human beings crave the company of other human beings, but I'm a social person anyway, sort of thing. Quite sociable and chatty, and I like the company of others, generally speaking. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd like to go back to the point I was making before, that I am used to being on my own, and there'll be lots of other times when I kind of want to be and have my own space, because that's what I'm used to. And sometimes I can find too much company a bit overwhelming sometimes, and sometimes I need that distance as well. It's a real hard balance to find, that balance between, having company and having people and being around people, but sometimes I also find that really, really difficult sometimes as well, because for most of my life, well, not most, well, a good portion of my life, I guess, in lots of ways, and when I think about it, in the homeless situation, for a long, long, long time, I was very socially inept, very socially awkward, found it very difficult to communicate with other people, and it's only in the last few years that I've started to find my voice. Start to find out who I am. I'm 50 years of age, and it's only now in the last couple of years that I'm starting to find out who I am, and that I have a voice, and I'm allowed to have those opinions as well. For many, many years, particularly from my early childhood, I wasn't allowed to have opinions, and I wasn't allowed to show other emotions, or any emotions really, and again, I don't want to go into the sort of blaming game and all this sort of thing, and I'm not going to go into a big long history about my childhood and this, that, and the other, blah blah blah. A lot of that's already been said in lots of other different ways, and like I say, it's about moving on. And like I say, now I'm starting to find my voice. I'm starting to find out who I am, and the fact that I'm allowed to have an opinion. And that my opinions are just as valid as anybody else's. And so, for a long time, like I said, I was very socially inept. I was very, very socially awkward. Found it very difficult to communicate with other people. Didn't know how to behave in social situations, really, because I'd never been in that very many social situations. I'm very isolated as a child, and like I say, that isolation, can be very damaging in lots of ways, especially for a kid. Anyway, sorry, just drinking some of my coffee. Don't mean to be rude. But yeah, so like I said, making these videos for me is partly like a therapy thing in a way, because I'll watch them back. Sometimes I'll even watch them after I've uploaded them onto YouTube. So and that's not about trying to create more views than I might be getting or something. It's just that I just want to see it from the perspective of potential people watching my videos. Kind of like try to see it from another person's point of view if possible. Do you know what I mean? Sort of sit there and look, what would people think about this, and do you think that sounds good, and How do you think people will perceive this? And you know, so I was trying to sort of put myself in my viewers' shoes, if you like, to sort of like, how would I feel about hearing that, or listening to this, or whatever sort of thing, or watching that particular thing, what I'm doing, or whatever. So that's kind of why I watch it when I've also uploaded it. I watch it initially when I put it onto my computer, but that's more about checking, do I need to edit anything, do I need to, does that look okay, have I got the right shot there, has this come out really rubbish, whatever sort of thing, you know what I mean? So it's just about, but checking in terms of like, is it, you know, do I need to do anything to it to try and improve the video or whatever? Anyway, like I said, and as you notice, I always go off topic constantly, but the thing is that, like I said, in terms of this isolation thing, now, as I said, I was equating it to homelessness, and the thing with that is that people can become quite isolated, particularly when you're homeless, because let's be honest about it, let's be frank about it. The thing is that most homeless people you see in the street, whether there's a couple of them, whether there's just one person, whether it's man, woman, whatever, more often than not, they might look quite dishevelled, they might not look very presentable or whatever, and therefore, for most people, and I'm generalising obviously, I am generalising, you know what I mean, I'm not saying that everybody's like this or whatever, blah blah blah, and even those people that do behave this way don't necessarily mean they're bad people. It's just, again, maybe it's human nature, you know what I mean? The thing is that you see a homeless person, you might have empathy, you might have sympathy, whatever, but you don't particularly want to stop and have a 5-minute chat with that person, or whatever, or take them for a coffee and whatever, do you know what I mean? You don't want to socialise in that sense. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to invite a homeless person to your family gathering or whatever, or to your birthday do down the disco, or whatever sort of thing. You know, these things are just not really going to happen, and if they do, it's extremely rare. Do you know what I mean? So for the most part, generally, the general public and society in general tend to more or less ignore homeless people. You know, and kind of that's just a fact of life. You know what I mean? That's the way it is. You know what I mean? Now, I mean, of course, you can work towards trying to change that, and that's a great thing, and maybe it's a positive thing, but I don't know. Then again, you've got to ask the homeless people themselves, would they welcome that necessarily? Do you know what I mean? I mean, you know, the thing is, you can't just willy-nilly see somebody on the street and say like, oh, why don't you come back to our house, we're having a party, or whatever sort of thing. You know, so I don't know if I'm coming across right here or not, to be quite honest. I don't know if I'm making any real sense right now. But see, that's the other thing as well. See, look, I'm doing it again. Right. In terms of the isolation of homeless people, obviously it's much more acute in lots of different ways. I mean, let's face it. If I went out and about, if I, you know, I'm not exactly scruffy right now, but I mean, if I dolled myself up a little bit more, put some nice clothes on or whatever, and decided, well, I wouldn't, because, like, you know, I don't particularly like going out to discos and pubs and whatever and all that sort of carry. Well, I don't anyway. But the point is that if I was to go out there and try and socialise, it doesn't matter whether it's a pub or whatever, you know what I mean, this, that and the other, more often than not, people will be generally, and again, I am generalising obviously, that most people would accept me in that sense, you know what I mean? I wouldn't necessarily be rejected, you know, even if I just, you know, struck up a general conversation with somebody, not necessarily intending to crash on their party or their whatever, but just made a general conversation with somebody. You know, whereas if I was the way I was when I was homeless, more often than not, you know, don't get me wrong, some people were polite and kind or whatever and this, that and the other, but they didn't necessarily want to spend any time with me. Do you know what I mean? Some people were just out and out rude, and some people were just out and out very, very nasty. But to be perfectly honest, my experience was that I probably had far more kinder people towards me than I had harsher people. But, you know, there were still quite a few harsher ones as well. But anyway, again, to try to keep to my original thoughts, is that as much as it's very acute and quite damaging for people that are actually physically out on the street, I've now realised that although, like I say, and I'm not trying to diminish, I mean, far be it from me, of all people, to diminish the experiences and what it's like for somebody to live out there on the street. Far be it from me to do anything like that, do you know what I mean? I've lived it, I've been there, I did it for 20 years, do you know what I mean? So that's the last thing I would ever do. But what I'm saying, or what I'm trying to say, is that, like, I'm actually finding this as traumatic in a way, and as devastating to be this long and this isolated on my own. Really struggling with that, and I think that's part of the reason why I'm starting to feel so lethargic and so forth, and this, that, and the other, blah blah blah. It's a sort of vicious cycle in a way that you start getting depressed, you start getting down, and you start to lose energy, and everything starts to become a big effort. And and at the end of the day, that is really down to me. It's there's lots of opportunities out there. There's lots of places I could go. Do you know what I mean? I know off the top of my head I could name probably 5 places I could go to. Not right this minute, because most of those places won't be open now anyway. But I could list about 5 different places I could go, tomorrow, and be in the company of like-minded people and so forth, and be very welcomed and so forth and so on. But again, the thing is that that's all right on one level. And again, it goes back to the motivation thing as well. But I am starting to do that again now. I'm starting to connect with other groups, some of the groups that I've never been to before. And so I'm starting to connect with other people again, starting to get a bit of a social circle going again a little bit. Because once you start to isolate for any length of time, and especially if it's something that's been throughout and a theme throughout most of your life, it can be really difficult to re-engage. And I think as you get older as well, to be quite honest, I think it gets harder. When you're younger, I think it's a bit easier in some ways because, well, I don't know what the exact reasons are, but just going by my own personal experience, like I say, as I'm getting older, I'm finding it harder to connect with other people again out there, sort of thing. But, like I said, the thing is I'm making the effort because I need to survive. I'm starting to realise I can't function and I can't survive on my own like this. I just can't do it. Do you know what I mean? I need to have other people around me, and I need to also have some kind of social connection, not just, like I say, once a week going to some group somewhere, or whatever, or even several different groups, which is good and which is what I need to do. Definitely need to do. Need to go out there. Maybe start going back to the Dragon Cafe, for instance. But I must admit, I don't know. And again, maybe I'm just being a bit super negative or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, the thing is, maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to go to the Dragon Cafe again. At least it's a nice place. Believe me, it is a nice place, and there's really decent, good, nice people in there. But anyway, again, I'm not trying to. The point again is that I need to try and make other friends, connections that will be much more on a social basis. When I think about it, I haven't been to the cinema with somebody else in years. Do you know what I mean? I've not been bowling. I've been bowling a couple of times before. I've never been bowling. I haven't been bowling for years with somebody else. I want to be able to do things on a social thing, not just on my own, because let's face it, a lot of the time going to those places on your own can be a bit intimidating anyway. It doesn't feel so bad if you've got a friend with you, but I haven't even got that anymore. Do you know what I mean? A lot of my friends have either moved on, or they've fallen off the grid. You know what I mean? They're just kind of I'm not in contact with them anymore. That's actually just made me think of somebody else as well that I might want to reconnect with. That I'm noticed on my phone that I had a missed phone call from that person. Maybe about a week ago, maybe less than that. I'm not sure exactly. A few days anyway. And I meant to get back to them, but because I got so little credit on the phone, I've kind of put it off a little bit. But it's been on my mind. I've been thinking about them, and I've been thinking about whether I should try and reconnect with them, because I've got on really well with that person, and I do consider them to be a friend. But I wouldn't say like they're a close friend, because, you know, we might reconnect for a little while, blah blah blah, and then, you know, I don't see them again for another 6 months or whatever. So I really need to start thinking about trying to do more social things, reconnecting with people, and reconnecting with some old friends, but maybe making some new friends, trying to broaden my circle, if it, as it were, and do some more social things rather than just being stuck in this flat all the time. Don't get me wrong, I love my flat, and I you know, this is beyond my wildest dreams to have something like this. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I'm extremely lucky. I really am. You know, when I compare to the people I'm going to be working with and have worked with, do you know what I mean? And people who are actually homeless there, and remember my own experiences out there, especially around Christmas time as well, was really difficult sometimes. I can remember times when I would walk down a road, it doesn't matter where it was, whether it was in Manchester, or whether it was in London, or wherever it was. I can remember times when I would walk down a road, and it'd be pitch black, you know, it'd be dark, whatever. Well, obviously you'd have street lights, whatever. But walking past, sort of, you know, early evening, 8, 9 o'clock, sometimes later, sometimes earlier, just depending. But when it was dark and it was cold and all the rest of it, and I remember walking past houses and seeing the windows and all lit up, and Christmas trees and Christmas lights, they're all looking warm and Christmassy and nice, and do you know what I mean? And imagining that there's a family in there that are all together, and do you know what I mean? And what have you? And oh God, that used to break my heart. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. Because the thing is that, you know, I longed, absolutely longed to have that. Do you know what I mean? I was so desperate to have that. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it was so. I can't even find a way of describing how it felt. It was horrendous. It really was, because, you know, I'd walk past those places, you know, and I would see all that nice glowy warm light, and it looked so warm and cosy and happy, and there's me out in this really, and when it gets winter, and this is, you know, the thing is, and particularly up north of England tends to be a heck of a lot colder, and the further north you go up, it gets even more. I mean, down south it's a little bit milder, but even down south, when winter really hits, it can be really, really cold. And the thing is that, like, when you're out in that environment out there, and you've got no shelter, and the only thing you've got is the clothes you're standing in, and you're walking on those roads, and the wind's hitting you and the rain's hitting you or whatever, and you know, you're shivering, and maybe you've been wet and you can't get dry, and you know, it's like it feels so hostile out there sometimes. It literally feels like the planet itself, Mother Nature itself, whatever, is against you. Feels like the whole environment has turned against you and really hates you. Okay, I know that is essentially just the stuff that you you know, you have in your head. Do you know what I mean? There's a word, I can't say it. Anthropomorphized. I can't get my tongue around that one. Basically, you put human connotations to other things, like animals or inanimate objects. Sometimes we put human connotations to those things. So like the I don't know, your phone stopped ringing deliberately. You did that deliberately because or whatever. I know it's a bit ridiculous, but I mean, we do that sometimes. We do, you know what I mean? Or like say, anthropomorphize. God, blimey, really struggling to get my tongue around that. Anthropomorphize, is it? Where we put, like I said, human emotions to animals, for instance, for our pets or whatever, and we could say something like, you know, that cat's been really devious, or whatever it might be, or the dog's being really grumpy, or do you know what I mean? Put a human emotion on an animal behaviour or whatever. And like I say, sometimes you do it with animate objects or even with just the environment. Because that's why it's been with me sometimes. You know, I'll be walking out there, like I said, walking past those windows where, you know, you got the nice glowy warmth and then the rain's hitting you or whatever. And it really does sometimes, I know it's my head saying that, but it feels like the environment itself, Mother Nature, the earth or whatever, is actually having a go at you. It's really, you know, it's yeah, kind of thing, you know what I mean? And sometimes that's how it feels. You know, and you're walking past those, like I say, you're walking past those houses, all lit up, looking nice, especially around Christmas time. Like I say, Christmas time, one of the hardest, I think. Personally speaking, it's one of the hardest times to be homeless out there. Because you know and understand, and you probably have come from a background perhaps where you were originally with a family and you had that Christmas thing, and then for whatever reasons that's now been taken away from you, sort of thing. And like I say, you know, for me, I just longed to have that and see those lovely places and look so nice, and you know, and that's, you know, so the thing is that getting isolated, being isolated, it's not a good thing. It's not healthy for a human being. You know, and again, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that completely. I mean, there are times when you need a bit of isolation. There are times when you need a bit of new space, if you want to call it me space, whatever. You know what I mean? There are times when you need to get away from people for a little while, sort of thing. But it's that balance. It's the balance between having your own space and your own personal autonomy, but at the same time feeling supported and feeling that sense of connection and family around you, sort of thing. And like I say, a lot of it I bring on myself. You know what I mean? I do. A lot of it I bring on myself because I sometimes actively seek out that isolation in some ways. You know what I mean? You know, so I'm not trying to say that, you know, it's all the world's fault or this, that and the other and da, but, you know, so a lot of it I do bring on myself. But that doesn't necessarily make it any easier. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't necessarily make it like, and again, it's not about blaming anybody, and especially blaming myself. Do you know what I mean? What's the point of pointing the finger and saying, well, it's your fault, why don't you go and do blah blah blah, this, that and the other? Do you know what I mean? I mean, what's the point of that? Do you know what I mean? That's not going to make me feel any better. Do you know what I mean? But, you know, the thing is that, because I need to do it for myself for a start off, I need to find the motivation within me. You know, other people can sort of advise and suggest and this, that and the other, but ultimately the motivation and the willingness and what have you, it's got to come from within me. And like I say, it's been really difficult just recently to be able to do that. But like I say, I've come to the conclusion and realisation that for my own sanity and for my own well-being, I need to get myself out of this trough that I'm going. You know, I know I'm going straight back down into that depressive slope, and I really need to pull myself back out of it, and that's what I'm determined to do. And for most times, I've managed to do that, and that's the other thing as well. I've always managed to manage my own depression without having to resort to medication. Now, again, I'm not saying, and I don't knock anybody that uses medication, because sometimes you really need it. Do you know what I mean? It's just for me, I don't feel like, well, actually, that said, there are moments, there are times when I seriously wonder, maybe I should have some medication. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes my depression can get that bad. Luckily so far, I'm not reached that absolute bottom. What's them? It's a bit like the analogy they use in my group in AA where I go to. I've heard this analogy a few times in the rooms here and there, where they say that it's like an elevator, it's like a lift, you know, and as you're going down, you can get off at any floor. You don't have to go all the way down to the bottom. necessarily. I mean, obviously it's your choice, you know what I mean, but you can press one of the other buttons and get off at that floor instead, do you know what I mean? And I think slowly but surely I'm starting to do that, instead of like letting that lift go all the way down like I would perhaps would normally have done. You know, I'm deciding now, actually, no, I don't want to go into the basement. I've had enough of the basement. I've been in the basement many times before. Don't want to go in the basement. Let's get off at haberdashery instead. Right, haberdashery is, you know what I mean, or whatever floor it might be. Just that was the first word that popped in my head. That comes from a TV series, actually. I was thinking of the Grace Brothers. Are You Being Served? I think mostly English people will get that reference. And English people of my generation as well, more often than not, I guess. Yeah, Are You Being Served? It was a comedy. It's a really nice comedy, actually, to think about it. Some of those 70s comedies were quite, what's the name? Anyway, sorry, I'm kind of reminiscing and drifting off, but that's where that reference haberdashery, because like the theme tune to that and the what's name was like, it went through a list of different floors, and the whole opening of the show was a lift, because it was set in a department store called Grace Brothers, and it was all about these staff, Mrs. Slocum being one of the staff that worked there, and oh, crying out loud, I forget half of them now. But anyway, so the thing is that, like I said, it would come down in the lift, and you would hear the cash register, and it was like ching ching ding, ding, I can't do the tune, but anyway, so there would be like the cash register, ching ching, you know, like that sort of thing. That would be part of the rhythm of the theme tune, and you would hear somebody singing sort of like the lyrics, and it would be listing the different floors of the department store, and one of them was haberdashery, and for some reason that just stuck in my head. I don't know why. Seems like an interesting word, haberdashery. I'm not even sure what haberdashery actually is off the top of my head. What is haberdashery? I've heard of it. I'm not sure. Is it something to do with clothing? I'm not sure, to be quite honest, I must admit. But anyway, like I said, that's where that reference. Wow. Do you see how that's fascinating? See, even I fascinate myself. How I even make these different jumps and links to different things, even as I'm having a conversation. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, oh, wow, how did, that's interesting, why did I think of that? You see what my head's like? I constantly question stuff. Even my own stuff, I'm questioning it. Almost, well, not maybe constantly, but almost constantly questioning, what's that, and why did I think, and why did I go there, and that's interesting. It's got one of those minds that's constantly inquiring and questioning, and you know. Anyway, I think I've ranted enough. I needed to do this, to be quite honest. And you know me, I do some, every now and again I'll do a big rant. Do you know what I mean? And I'll rant on about something, and sometimes it's usually something and nothing, or sometimes it might be interesting for people or whatever. But sometimes it's just like having a good old rant, because like I said, maybe it's because I'm a Leo and I'm a bit gregarious, and I do like a bit of limelight sometimes, and I do like a bit of attention. And I guess because I'm lacking in a lot of attention at the moment, in general, that I guess that's why, you know, I like doing these videos and stuff. I was actually going somewhere else with that, and I've distracted myself again, never mind. Sorry. You see, like I say, because I'm constantly questioning myself, I'm questioning my own motives, I'm questioning why am I saying this particular thing, I'm questioning is this the right thing to say, constantly censoring myself a lot of the time as well. Do you know what I mean? Trying to make sense of things, and inevitably, because I'm constantly doing that, I inevitably trip myself up. Do you know what I mean? Because like, instead of being much more succinct and to the point and direct and so forth, I just kind of like, you know, I'm constantly trying to think, oh, anyway, like I said, I think I've come to a natural end, although emotionally, a part of me wants to just completely continue this conversation for the next 10 hours. You know what I mean? But practically, obviously, yeah, that's impossible. Right, definitely going to switch off. I'm going to upload this. Don't know what you're going to make of it. Want to try and do some more interesting videos. I've just been watching a few other guys on here. There's another one that I've just subscribed to. The what does he call himself? The Amazing Atheist or something he's called. And I really like his videos actually. I was listening to him. They're quite funny. I like them. I like them. I've subscribed because I just find him funny and I like what he says. And it's interesting, funny, topical, you know, and just, I don't know, I can't say why, other than that, why I like him. I just do, and I'm going to watch some more of his stuff. Right, I'm definitely going to stop. I keep saying it, and I'm going to do it. Right, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll catch you guys soon. More often than not, do about 10 videos in one day anyway, you know what I'm like. Right, catch you guys later. Bye for now, and thanks for watching. Bye.